triggering a new knowledge panel is all the rage, and a lot of people are asking the question of how do you trigger a new knowledge panel? Today I'm joined with Chris Walker, the founder of Legit, who successfully does this week on week. So Chris, it's a pleasure having you, and I want you to jump straight in. I don't need to explain who you are and what you do personally, because a lot of people who's watching this is going to know who you are. So how would you go about triggering a new KGM ID, which stands for Knowledge Graph Machine ID, which is then what then leads on to you getting a knowledge panel?
Yeah, so again, thanks for having me. I think the first thing to do is just to make sure that you exist. Like, you got to like do the basic stuff. Like, you have to have your like a brand website. And when I say a brand website, it's either I'm gonna answer this as if you were a person trying to get a knowledge panel rather than a business, because that's more what my experience is. I think having a personal brand website helps a lot. I mean, it almost has to be like, you have to have like a home base. So even if it's not like your main business, you probably have jamesdooley.com. I have chrismwalker.com. Something like that. And then you have to have all of the main like socials, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, and then regularly post to those. So have all that out there. I know that sounds like day one marketing stuff, but a lot of people will try to go buy some services or something and like skip that part. So it's important to get all of that in place first, and not just to make them, but like to at least have, you don't have to be a regular content creator, although it helps, but at least like post to them regularly enough to where they're not a ghost town. And then if that would be where I would start. Make sure you have all of that. Have use consistent photos and stuff everywhere, so like it knows how to associate you with it. Basically, everything we're trying to do here is tell Google that this one person or this one site, this one entity, to use the industry term, is the same thing. So we're trying to tie all that together. So we do all that. Then there's certain sites that I found that are very effective, like Wikidata, and there's a bunch of different Wikidata. There's Wikidata, WikiAlpha, like a whole bunch of those. I find that makes a really big difference, and seems like Google really pulls from that when it's getting its knowledge. And then this one's kind of a hack, but if you can get an IMDb page, that's really, really big for triggering a knowledge panel. And there are ways to go about that. I guess I can give this away. I have it on my channel, but like the way I got mine was years ago, before I even knew I was going to do SEO. There was an independent movie that was taking donations to like help get the movie made. And what they did was, if you donated $200, they would put your name in the credits as a special thanks. So I spent $200, I got my name in the credits. And years later, I was like, there's a category on IMDb for that. So I went in and I put myself in as a special thanks, and it created a page for me, and then I built it out. And then that was one of the big movers for a knowledge panel. So there's a little nugget. There's other ways to go about it. Like, Craig, he actually like got somebody with, I won't give away what he did, but you know. Yeah. So, but that
he's actually got a legit one now with you guys. He's been in TV series and all sorts. Like, crazy.
Yeah, I'm not willing to go to that extreme personally.
Yeah, no. But, to be honest with you, though, just a little hack on that.
Sure.
I've launched 8 new podcast series. So this kind of podcast is going to go live. This is also going to go on IMDb, which then you're then a guest on this episode, and each episode gets put onto IMDb by us, and then you get attributed to it, which comes up with all the write-up, and that links back to your profile. So there's something called the Starometer, which is within IMDb, which strengthens up your profile. So if you can get on other people's podcasts, I've got 8 of them which I've launched, right? So last year, in 2025, I launched 8 books. And then this year, in 2026, I'm launching 8 podcast series. And one of the big part of the podcast series is that every episode gets put on IMDb. So anyone who's a guest on my episode, on any podcast of the 8, gets, if they've not got one, gets an IMDb profile created like that.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I have seen that. Paul Andre.
Yeah. It's the SEO show.
Yeah. I saw he was getting them that way as well. So definitely try to get an IMDb page, and there's at least 3 different ways to go about that. And then you just have to go through the process. it's kind of a pain in the ass. At least I found that it was, like, trying to claim it. You have to like log into like the certain thing and then claim it. And I screwed it up the first couple times I did it, and I eventually got somebody else to do it for me. But that's kind of the whole process. Now that sounds like that. As I hear myself say all that, I feel like I'm underselling it. It's a lengthy process. It's not hard, but it's tedious, and there's a lot of steps to it. So
yeah. So with regards to that, obviously you've got one for Chris M. Walker.
Yes.
Obviously, because there's loads and loads of different Chris Walkers.
Yeah,
so you went down the route again.
A funny story on that, actually. I eventually wanted to do Chris Walker because that's my name. But apparently there was a one-hit wonder in the 90s that when you Google Chris Walker, like he shows up for that. And whenever I do like SEO talks, like at conferences and stuff, I always tell that joke. And like I messaged him one day and said, you've been helping make my speeches more entertaining. I do that. And he's like, oh, that's hilarious. Thanks. I'm glad to help. So Chris Walker is actually very awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. But obviously you've got it in for Chris M. Walker.
Yeah.
You've got, with regards to what you're doing on there, you mentioned about social media. Would you recommend any like software? So things like NA10 or Make.com. If someone didn't want to be posting every single day on Facebook and on Twitter, on Instagram and stuff like that, is there any kind of setup of AI agents that people could be using to try and keep them warm, or do you not really recommend doing that?
Yeah, you could. I don't do that myself because I would rather have like real. I say real, but like at least something that's like somewhat valuable. Yeah, you can automate it or just hire like I don't like the term VA, but like hire somebody to do it for you. But yeah, you could automate it. I haven't tried it specifically to get a knowledge panel, but I don't see why it wouldn't work.
Yeah. And then with regards to, so obviously you've said like the core social media profiles that needs to be done, which is pretty much marketing, like you said, marketing 101. That's what everybody should have anyway.
Yeah.
The only issue that I foresee is certain people might have, let's say, a Facebook or a Twitter, which might be for personal use and not for business use. And then maybe they might need to create a second one, which is specifically just for business. And then obviously in the schema markup, they can wrap the schema when you spoke about like jamesdooley.com, what the actual terminology for that, for like the branded profile, is called the entity home. So that's the entity home is where you wrap the schema markup with who you are and what you do. So obviously you've done it very successfully. There's quite a few other people that have used a lot of legit services to do it successfully. But I've got one or two other questions. With regards to legit, would you not recommend anybody to go out and get, just to try and fill out from a branding, even just from a reputation management point of view, go out and just protect chrismwalker.tumblr.com, chrismwalker.blogspot.com,
totally.
and just go out and get all of the web 2.0s.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's no I don't know how much impact it has, but there's no reason not to. It's such a simple thing that you can get done or do yourself. There's no reason to not go own that. And again, you're just giving it more and more information. Like, our job, whether it's with a knowledge panel or SEO in general, is to make it easy for Google and the search engines and now the LLMs to understand things. So the more you can feed it, the easier it is for it to understand it, and the more likely you're going to get results. And I forgot to mention schema, by the way. That's a big one. You put that on the main site to tie in all your profiles to it and say, hey, this is me and these are mine.
Yeah, for sure. What about press? Do you ever do anything with regards to like multiple facets of you? So like different versions of you. So Chris Walker wins an award at Legit. Chris Walker does something else, and you're winning certain awards, and you're promoting the awards on, let's say, guest posts or press releases. Is there anything of that to just make more noise of who you are and what you do?
Oh, totally. I've done tons of press releases over the years. I guess I've done them so much that it didn't even like occur to me that that's part of it. But like, whether I launch a new product or I have a new YouTube channel, or sometimes you can just make shit up. You can always find an angle, and you should do those probably every 90 days, just as a good matter of principle. And some of those links, we talked about this on another session, but some of them will rank on their own, and then some of them will stick around for years. Like, there's a Yahoo Finance out there that I did in, I think, 2020. It's almost 2026 as we're recording this. So
yeah, it's crazy how long they can stick around for. Plus, not only that, anyone who's watching this, and we're talking here about specifically triggering a knowledge panel, it's also part of actual building your own brand SERP and actual personal branding. Like, you're controlling your reputation online.
Yeah.
If you own all the properties that's on there, you can then deliver who you are and what you do in your own terms. You can have control over it. And I think going into 2026, people need to be looking more at not just the corporate brand, but who they are and what they do. Because like the personal branding is huge. Like you said before, you on another video with regards to certain competitions, building up that community and building things up with regards to having a personal brand can help you leverage new brands that you might be investing in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years time.
Yeah.
There's one thing that you can never sell, and that's Chris M. Walker.
Right.
You can sell legit, you can sell your businesses, but your personal brand remains. So, and I don't think enough people actually look to invest enough
Absolutely not.
in themselves.
Well, yeah, and like you can take that and then just apply it to whatever you do. Like the example I like to give on that is Mr. Beast. Like for years, all he did was make videos and make himself famous, and now he can stick his name on a chocolate bar or an energy drink or whatever, and the business takes off because he puts his face on it. Yeah, and then another thing with a personal brand is like what was I going to say? Sorry, I forgot where I was going with that.
With regards to, I'll just expand on it a little bit because I think you might have been going along this and it might retract some stuff. Having a personal brand is not only great for, like say, new investments, it attracts a player staff and stuff like that. There's so many benefits to having it.
Yeah, and you know what? That's what I was going to say was the number one direct response traffic channel that we have for legit is my personal brand. Like there's no bigger like axe I can swing to get like quick sales and quick traffic, and I can't quantify it, but I'm pretty sure it's our number one traffic source. But like when I post on my personal Facebook, it gets 1,000 times the engagement that does on like the company's Facebook page because people like the face, you know. And I'm not particularly good at it. Like I'm kind of an asshole sometimes. And
no, you are good at it, mate. You're playing yourself down there. You are good at it.
But you know, that's that wasn't intentional when I started doing it, but like it's worked out to where that's the big, like I can like make a post and like drive sales, like so. Now, just to add, there is a downside to that. You know, that becomes you can get too tied to your brand to where it makes it harder to sell something because it's so tied to you personally. You know.
But what I would say to you is, on this video here, we're talking about triggering knowledge panels. What some of these business owners can be doing, let's say you're looking to sell legit, right? And let's say you've got a 2-year plan to sell legit, right? Then knowing that you can trigger knowledge panels, you now could be building up your C-level staff. So a new CEO could come in, a COO, a CMO could all come in, that you could build up their profile and you slowly move away from the brand, and there's actually people with knowledge panels being set up. And I think this is the key part. I think this is the key fundamental, which Lord like comes on to my last question. How important, obviously, you've spoke about how to trigger a knowledge panel, but how important do you think it actually is? Because obviously now we've spoke about, I've just mentioned one reason of exactly for selling, elevating some of your staff that allows you to move away from the business, which allows you to sell legit, and it's not just being, well, you have to sell your soul with legit, if you get what I mean. Like you can build others up. How important is it to trigger a knowledge panel for people in 2026?
You mean people like other than yourself, like your employees?
Yeah, like so if you're working with a business, getting that business owner
I see.
them to have a knowledge panel.
I think it's incredibly important, especially for like a lot of my clients. I don't really do clients anymore either because we talked about why we don't.
Yeah.
But I worked with like a lot of like insurance agencies and wedding photographers and stuff like that, and I would always get the owner to get one. Some of them would fight me really hard on it because they're like introverts or what. I don't know what the reason is, to be honest, but it's not just SEO, but like it gives so much trust. Like people will go like search you and figure out if you're somebody worth working with. Having it there has got to be one of the biggest conversion factors. It's even if it's nonsense, because like people see that as important, even if you aren't important at all. If they see that's important. There's a lot of little things like that, like YouTube play buttons and stuff like that. That makes a lot of difference to people. Like that's social currency. So beyond just an SEO perspective, it's not that hard to do. It does take some work, but the ROI is just tremendous.
Yeah, for sure. So anyone who's watching this, we hope you like the video of how to trigger a new knowledge panel. It is also known as a KGM ID, which stands for Knowledge Graph Machine ID. Both myself and Chris Walker have managed to successfully do it. I also believe, exactly like what Chris Walker is, that it's very important for you, if you are working with any clients, to get the business owners or the CMO, to get them to get that entity being set up. If they do not have a KGM ID, they're not a known entity. Where a lot of people talk about entity SEO, if they do not have a KGM ID, that person is not a known entity within the knowledge graph. And I think that's the most important part. You've got to be connecting those nodes together and connecting those entities together. And if you can be the founder of a company and the founder can have a knowledge panel and there's that connection, I think it's very important. Chris, It's been an absolute pleasure.
One more thing, if you want to get one for your company, you're going to have to get one for your founder before you do that too. So some people might say, well, I want one from the company, but like, you're going to have to get one for your founder. So you might as well do it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just think it's vitally important to get I'm not saying for all staff, but I think every C-level, so a CEO, a CMO, a COO, I think all them should have knowledge panels. And I definitely think that the business can actually have two. So it can have one for the actual business, the corporate business, and then one or multiple ones for the Google business profile. The Google business profile is different. KGM ID to the actual corporate banks. It's about the location, not about the brand. But for me, it just the trust signals. The minute you've got a Google business profile connected to a website, the additional trust that website now gets is huge. I think it's not if you should get it. It's you need to get it. I think it's mandatory now. And I think this is also a big play of why a lot of affiliate sites got hit with the helpful content update. The affiliate site doesn't have a KGM ID. There's nobody behind it, or even if they do put an author bio, that author bio is not a known person within Google. Therefore, you may as well just put Mrs. Smith. He doesn't mean anything. And trying to get that person to be having a knowledge panel and being connected to who they are and what they do to the brand, I think becomes very important.
It also gives you, if you're like an agency, it gives you something you can sell. Like you can sell just that as a service and charge $3-4 grand for it probably.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone who's watching this as well with regards to selling it as a service, check out the links in the description. There's going to be some links there, the different legit links that Chris has mentioned with regards to the different like wiki data, the different wiki setups, the press release, some of the guest posts and stuff like that. There's lots of different freelance services that you can be getting from Legit. Chris, you've done an absolutely amazing job in elevating people on there and being able to sell their services. I think it's incredible what you've done. So make sure you head over to Legit. Make sure you check the links in the description. And Chris, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.